One of the questions I get asked often about websites is, do I really need a website? If I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn and Snapchat and Instagram, do I really need a website too? That's just one of the little questions, or one of the big questions we're going to answer today on the podcast, because I have superstar Sarah Crawford from Align Design on the podcast today talking all about websites. I cannot wait to share this episode with you. Hey, welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
Dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Hey there, my podcast family. Welcome to episode 51 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you, as always, for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices out there, and I sincerely appreciate you making me one of them. If you're a first-time listener, then super welcome. I'm really happy you've landed here. I'm the host, Jen Donovan, and as you'll learn pretty much along the way, I live and I breathe and I dream and I have nightmares about marketing and social media. It's my life, but I'm all about making your life and your business just that little bit simpler. And of course, your marketing and social media a little bit simpler as well, because business isn't easy, but it definitely should be simple, or at least simpler. Of course, one of the ways I can help make your life simpler is joining my Facebook group, Like-Minded Business Owners. You can go in there and ask questions and get answers, and join me on live videos and ask questions live, and we can enjoy the journey of being in business together. If you haven't joined Like-Minded Business Owners, then just head into Facebook. You can either search Like-Minded Business Owners, or of course you can head to the show notes at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/podcast episode 51, and the link, of course, will be in the show notes. My very last guest on the podcast for 2019 is amazing and super and extremely nerdified and talented, and she is, of course, Sarah Crawford from Align Design. Sarah is a website magician. Yep, magician. She's so much more than a website developer or a creator. She's definitely more like a magician. And of course, she was my magician. She magicked up my website, socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. And yes, I'm pretty sure magicked up is a word for 2019. Today, we are going to discuss all things websites and answer the question, do you need a website in 2020 and beyond? But of course, let's start with the discovery of the week. My discovery this week came from listening to another podcast, actually, with Molly Pittman, the expert of all things complicated when it comes to social media marketing ads. It's a website, actually it's a web app that you can use that can really help you to stand out when creating ads. It's called Yaytext. So it's at www.yaytext.com. So YAYTEXT.com. So basically it lets you bold and underline and use crazy text or italics in like your ad copy. Really any social media copy that you've got, which of course will help you really stand out in what is a very busy social media news feed. So you might have noticed in Facebook groups that you can actually use italics and you can actually use bolding. But at this stage, Facebook hasn't allowed us to use it organically within the platform for our business pages or our personal pages. So this little app actually helps us to do that. So we can bold things that we really want to stand out, or underline them, or use crazy text, which might be, like bubble text or something like that. Basically, anything that helps you stand out from the crowd, helps you get noticed, helps you look a little bit different on social media, that you can catch someone's eye. It has got to be a good thing. And you know what? If it's good enough for Molly, then it must be even better. Of course, Yaytext is free and you can find it at yaytext.com, like I said before. As always, just a little disclaimer, my discoveries are just that and I'm in no way affiliated with them, but I promise to tell you if I ever am. I just love them, and in this case, I love the idea that I can use bold in not only my ads on social media, but also in my actual feed. So that for me is pretty exciting. So let's get into the episode. As I mentioned before, my guest is Sarah Crawford from Align Design. Sarah is an extremely talented website designer and creator, and I have to say continually blew me away with her knowledge, her processes and procedures, and her professionalism as we built my website together earlier this year. But I've got her on the podcast today to actually talk to you about whether you still need a website in 2020 and beyond, and how to get started if you don't have one, or if you do have one, how to best look after it. It's a really great conversation, and it's actually like two friends just having a chat, but there is some amazing gold in there. And when I say two friends chatting, I actually only met Sarah earlier this year through a Facebook group and employed her to do my website design for me. But I'm pretty sure we're going to be friends for a long, long time. So I won't keep you waiting. Let's welcome Sarah onto the podcast. Sarah, I'm so super excited to have you on my podcast at long last. For the people out there perhaps who don't know who Sarah is or much about Align Design, what can you tell us about you and about your little beautiful boutique website building company?
Oh my goodness. So I like to build websites that connect with people, with their ideal clients, and take the very best that you have to offer and really showcase that. It's a journey. It's that we go on together. I use design and copy and photography. I work with copywriters and photographers to make sure that you look really, really good. Package it all up with some code and sprinkle something really extra on top and send you off.
It all sounds so dramatically easy.
And it's so not.
No, it is so not. It is definitely a process, but certainly, having definitely had experience with you building my beautiful new website, I can definitely say it was a wonderful experience, but it was an experience in itself. I learned so much from you and so much I didn't know about website building, and that was a little bit of a surprise for me, I have to say, because I'd built 4 websites before I got to you. So I wasn't a newbie to building websites. So I found it really surprising, all the things that I just didn't know.
And there is so much. And I think probably one of the really challenging things for me as a business owner who's a developer and designer, and we can go over what the difference between those soon, is managing those expectations about what a website is and what a website does and what you need to give me to do my work and how we go through the process of actually building it, and then how we hand off, how you do your maintenance, those sorts of things. It is such a process, and it's an investment of time, it's an investment of love and energy, and it's an investment of money, and it's a two-way street. So I learned so much from you about how you talk to your clients and what they want to see from you, and I have to understand that because I don't know who you are and I don't know what you do, and I need you to tell me. And I need to keep poking you to get it if I don't get it yet.
Yeah, and poor you'll never forget who I am ever again. You're just on my list now. There's no escaping the wrath of Jen Donovan anymore. So I guess your answer, that's probably a really good question to start with. What is the difference between a website developer and a website designer? Because I wouldn't have thought there's too much difference, but I'd love to hear what your point of view is professionally, what the difference is.
Okay, so technically a website developer is someone who does the code. So you've got a front-end developer and a back-end developer. A back-end developer does the database that the website uses to show the information. A front-end developer works in languages like CSS, HTML, jQuery, those sorts of things to take the information that's in the database and show it into the browser. The website designer says, I want it to look this way. So that website designer might work in like Illustrator or XD, tools like that to actually make the design, but it doesn't live on a website until a developer puts it in there.
So where do you fall into that picture?
I'm both. I'm a unicorn. No.
Of course you are.
So I do the design and I do the development. I do the design live in the browser. And this is why we start with wireframes. This is why we get what's called the information architecture done first. This is why we go, right, how many pages are we having? What's on the page? What order of information is going to happen? Where do those buttons need to go? Is this going backwards or forwards? Is it going to an archive page or a static page or something like that? And then we go, okay, the information is there. It's been developed into a wireframe. Then we'll talk about the design, and then I develop the design. So it really depends on who you're working with and what their skill set is. Usually in a really big agency, they'll have the front end and back end developers off in a room and they work together. They'll have the designers working with the client managers. And first of all, what will happen is you'll get the design and you'll approve the design. Then it goes straight off to the developers and they do all of it in one go. But with some smaller agencies, someone like me and the colleagues that I work with, we do wireframes, development, design, development, and you're live. And there's so much to know in between.
Absolutely. And I'm sure there is like an incredible amount that I'm not even aware of, having gone through the process just recently. But I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask you today on the podcast, and I remember listening to a bit of a social media expert, and it's probably going back a couple of years now, and they were saying how websites will be dead. Websites don't put, effort, energy and investment into websites, by, I don't even know what year he said. He probably said year 2021 or something, websites would be dead. But I actually didn't really agree with him. But I guess one of the questions I had to you was, we're heading into 2020, websites versus social media. Do we actually need both as small business owners?
Oh, yes. Yes. I mean, you read about the Instagram businesses that Instagram has a blackout. Poof, there goes their business. Or they get hacked. There goes their business. You need to think about the website as a sandpit you own. Your mailing list is the sandpit that you own. So you connect those two and keep referring people back. But you don't own the algorithms in Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Google, any of those sorts of things. You've got to keep your website being the territory that you own, that's branded to you, that has just you and your content and what you love, so that when people go there, they'll see you. But even if they like your page on Facebook or what have you, they may not interact with you all the time. But you use your Facebook and Instagram to send them back there, they'll find you. And they'll be able to see everything that you are and everything that you have to offer. You're able to tell them a full story too. That sort of thing, you might be able to get a little bit lost in the narrative sometimes, So definitely very, very important. It's so important to work your social media with your website and continue telling that story about how awesome you are and what problems you can solve for your clients.
Yeah, and I think they're all really great points, but I just probably want to emphasize the very first point, and that is we don't own these social media platforms. We don't own the followers. We don't own our our likers, our followers, our connections, depending on what platform you're on. And, I know in 2019, I know of at least 4 instances where social media hasn't worked one day. Something's happened in head office, in the cloud, or whatever happens. And bang, we don't have access to those people. And it's probably one of those things that I talk about in my workshops about social media, is posing that question. If Facebook shut down tomorrow, or if Instagram or LinkedIn shut down tomorrow, do you still have a business? If the answer is no, then that has to ring alarm bells. And certainly websites, especially if you build them on WordPress, or, you would be able to tell better than me, you actually own those platforms. It's a little bit different if you build on Wix or Shopify, is it?
It's a little bit sort of more grey. I'm certain about Shopify, you don't own the website. It's their property because you build on their closed platform, but definitely WordPress, you own it. You can take it anywhere you want to. All of the content belongs to you. So, you own that. And that's something for me as a developer. developer designer, handing off to clients, is that you've made an investment in something and you own it. It's your digital storefront, and that's the difference between having social media, which is like, you know, mail outs or, you know, advertising, those sorts of things. Sometimes, you know, that you want people to come back to your shop and buy.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Your digital bricks and mortar. I like that. I definitely like that. So I guess for someone who might be listening who does have a website, how often should they be looking at updating that website? And updating, I guess, meaning both perhaps, you know, updates as in putting new content on, or on the flip side, updates as in how often should we be looking at a whole rebuild or a rebrand?
It really depends. You know, if you're talking about a rebrand and a redevelopment, probably it will happen naturally. You'll get to a point and go, you know what, this doesn't reflect me anymore. It doesn't tell my story, and it doesn't connect with the people I want to connect with. So go and do it. You know, because your ideal clients, you know, if they've been sitting in the mix of your social media and your mailing list, they're on that journey with you anyway. So it's not going to be a surprise that you've done that. They'll go, oh, yay, that makes a heap of sense to me. In terms of security, you should always have your website up to date all the time. You know, particularly, you know, it doesn't matter what platform you're on, you should have someone looking into that as a priority, really, because some patches come out, you know, week after week for security reasons, and that's something that I do in my maintenance plans, is keep an eye out on the digest saying, you know, WordPress has just been updated to security risk. Update today. But if you're sitting there and you've got 35, 45 updates in your dashboard, you're starting to become insecure every single time you're opening yourself up to hackers, to, you know, and things just simply not working, because your website is an ecosystem. So if you don't keep one part up to date, it may affect other parts of your website. If you're not running, you know, PHP, which is the operating system of a website, which is the most up to date that your website needs to do all of its jobs, you end up in trouble. So, and that in terms of usability too, you'll slow your website down. Things look broken. It's a bad user experience. So you've got, you know, multifaceted reasons to keep your website up to date. And then there's Google. You know, Google ignores you if it thinks no one's home. So you keep your website up to date to say, hey, I'm still here, I'm still in business, and also please don't hack me, because I've got a really big firewall up, so, which is up to date.
So as far as content goes, do you think that people should be putting new content up weekly or monthly to keep the Google spiders, apparently is the right terminology, these little spiders that come along, which is, for someone who's petrified of spiders, you know, doesn't put good images inside my head. But, you know, is that what we should be looking at, is sort of that weekly or monthly updating of content?
You know, it depends on who you read, and you'll get like a bunch of different answers. But, you know, 2 weeks is kind of either side of that advice, and it depends on how people consume your content too. Like, it needs to be more than 300 words to index well on Google. It needs to have your keywords in it and those sorts of things built in as part of your strategy of talking to people. You know, using the categories and tags that your website developer would have built in to archive your information in a really useful way to help people navigate, to help Google navigate. So have a strategy around it, your content production, and then go, right, okay, how much do I need to put out, and how can I break that up maybe every 2 weeks, and then post it to your social medias and refer your website in those social media links, put on your Google My Business, put it on Pinterest, all those sorts of things. There's no point in making content and it just goes into the ether. You know, make it work really, really hard for you.
Yeah. Repurpose, people. Yes, we need to be repurposing. And look, you know, I've definitely got some lessons to learn there myself as far as repurposing content, like this podcast that I do every week. But that's a story for another day and another episode. I guess, well, Sarah, for some people, they might not have a website, and that's certainly when I tour around rural towns in New South Wales and Victoria, there are still a lot of businesses out there that don't have a website. I think they're crucially important. But where should someone start? If they haven't got a website, they're not quite sure about what to do, what the first step is. What sort of advice could you give to someone who perhaps is a small business without a website but has socials?
It's such an interesting question because the needs of each customer are different, and who they talk to, they'll speak to them in a different way. Not everyone needs, a 15-page massive information repository for their clients. They might just need one page done well, up there, optimized really quick, so that when people type in, Jim's shovel hire service, they go, oh, okay, I found it on Google My Business, and it turns up when I Google it. And it's there, and I can see what they do. That's really awesome. I'm going to give them a call because on their website it says they offer 3 different services. It actually helped, that going through that process actually really helps people figure out what they do. It's a really interesting process to walk people through, and often we have so many light bulb moments. Oh, I do that, don't I? Yeah, that's really good. That's really helpful. I'm going to use that. Like, yes, fantastic. You've made my week. Those sorts of things, they can really help a business focus. Yeah. And it can really help them make their processes more efficient too. Because if, Jim's shovel hire service has 3 services that they're doing really, really well, and they're putting that on their website, and that's what they're getting their inquiries on, and they can start becoming really efficient at that delivery. So there's lots of ins and outs of having a website and going through that process that are really, really helpful to the business. You may not get that if you do it yourself, because a lot of DIYers, I'll just put a couple of images up and a couple of things that, maybe say what they do in a contact form. But again, does the contact form work? Have they kept it up to date? Does it have a recapture so they're not getting spam? Has it got any keywords in there? Is the image 10 meg and blowing up everyone's internet connection, or is it, 200 kilobytes and optimized? So there's a lot of different things that you go into thinking about when you get your website up, let alone platform, analytics, all those sorts of things. One of the most common questions I'll see about websites in business groups is, what does everyone use to build their website? Open a massive can of worms and look what's coming out. Oh, I use Shopify and I love it. I use Wix and I love it. I use this and that. And people say WordPress is way too scary, so don't use that. So it's really interesting to ask those questions, because you'll get answers about what people are using themselves and enjoying, but you may not get the best answer for you and your business. And that's, you ask a professional a question, whether it's just having a consult and talking to someone for an hour, maybe not engaging them, but getting some really good advice, and setting you on the right path. The developer might go, you know what, you're not ready yet. Why don't you have a crack? I'll give you the list of things to go and do yourself, and you go and get yourself organised and come back to me maybe in 6 months or so when you're ready and you've got your content and photography and all those sorts of things organised. It's a huge question.
Yeah, it is. And I guess, mentioning those groups and people who put those questions into the groups, from a marketing point of view, and from what I do in my business, what grates me the most about how people answer those is the word I use this. I like this. I love this. It's like, it's not about you people. It's about your customers. It's about the people who land on the platform. Are they having a good experience? Do all the buttons work? Can they get in contact with you? Is the information on there relevant to them? It's kind of like, we need to kind of flip the narratives. Like, I use WordPress, and my clients tell me that it's a really easy platform to work. I use Shopify because my clients really love the fact that it integrates well with Instagram, whatever that looks like, cutting the I out. And I'm always tempted to put this little tiny comment at the bottom, and I'm like, no, haters will hate, so I'll just stick to my own. But it's definitely, we've got to cut the I out. It's not about us. It's building a website that has, like you said a couple of sentences ago, a really good user experience.
Yeah, and that's something I'm constantly studying, is user experience design. That's something that you should look for in a developer or a designer, that one of those people has experience in user experience design. And I'm not just talking about a qualification, because qualifications, they can be got a long time ago. If someone isn't up to date with how accessibility rules have changed for people who use screen readers and those sorts of things, about contrast and about user journeys, that's what you need to ask questions about. So, right, who's my ideal client and how are they going to find what they're doing? And the colours I'm using, if someone's colourblind or they can't see very well, that's a big mistake that people who do their own websites often run into. They don't have enough contrast built in, so people get lost. So making sure that one of those people that you're working with has some experience in user experience design, and that helps you choose your platform too. So someone like you, with your e-course and lots of different opt-ins and those sorts of things, the engine that runs that best is WordPress.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a big secret. I always recommend WordPress anyway.
There you go. You heard it first on the Small Business Made Simple podcast. WordPress rules. Woohoo!
There's nothing you can't do.
One of the lessons one of the things that I guess I talk to people about that don't have websites, and not that I'm any sort of an expert, but I do see the value in a website, is what do you do when you don't know something? You Google it. So if you're not on Google, I think Kate Toon said on my podcast, if you're not on Google, are you really even on the internet type of thing? So, it's kind of, I don't say to my children, go look it up on the internet. I use the word Google. We have Google Home every morning. Google, what's the weather like today?
Exactly.
Some sort of website is definitely something I would recommend every small business have.
Absolutely.
And like you say, whether it's just one page that's really, really well curated, is something
absolutely.
to
And you can do a lot with one page if you've thought about it really hard. It doesn't have to be all the bells and whistles. I prefer people to start small and grow, and that's another reason I recommend WordPress, is it can do anything. So it's setting you up for doing really well in the future. Whatever you want to do, you can do it on WordPress. So just start, just make a good investment, get it done really well, and know that you can grow with your investment. So that's it's a smart decision.
So I guess investment is probably, a good segue into the next question. We have a web developer, we have a web designer. Who else do we need on our team? Who else do we need to be engaging with or employing or looking to have as part of our team if we're really going to invest in a great website that's going to bring us in business and attract the people who will one day do business with us?
Definitely a copywriter. The copywriter will work with the UX designer to have a think about the journey your customer goes on. So they will have a look at your products and services. They'll have a look at your story, your ideal customer, and the team will work together, the development team, so developer, designer, copywriter, and think about how we're going to present you in a really logical way, using the right words to make the person do what you want them to do. So that's called a call to action on a website. What is your call to action on this page? Is it subscribe? Is it go to the shop? Is it connect with me? Is it simply just go to my social media, make a phone call, contact form? So many different choices. How are we going to make them do that? And how are we going to flesh it out so that your ideal customer says, oh my God, yes, I can't say no. But your less than ideal customer, someone you don't like working with, is going to go, I'm going to go find someone else. Because we don't want to have rubbish inquiries that choke up our time. We want to have those people that we really connect with contact us. So a copywriter is absolutely important. A photographer, like professional photos, I can't stress this enough. It doesn't matter if you've got a good camera. Please don't take the photos yourself. Go pay somebody to do it. Please. So your designer or your developer will often optimize those images for web delivery. But having a well-framed, well-lit, well-edited photos of yourself, even if you hate having your photo taken, a professional photographer will do the right thing to make you relax. You should also show what you do. So if you're a writer, have a pen and a book, even if you write on a computer, because people want to see that really basic thing of what you do. Artists in their studio, Jim the shovel, hire person out there standing on his shovel, he's going to be a person now. Show people how they would interact with you if you rocked up to their house.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just sort of like leaning there going, hey, it doesn't make a lot of visual sense. You know, in a hero image, sure. But people want to get further into that website and go, you know, Jen's a social media manager. And then, you know, you're there sharing a phone with somebody and sharing a laptop with somebody and having a laugh. I can see how you'd interact with me and I can put myself into that picture. Makes a heap of sense. So those are the sorts of photos you want a professional photographer to go in and do. So absolutely important. And the copyright and the photographer, their web content, that's what I need from my clients to do my job. So I'm a developer designer. I put what you give me on the internet. If you don't give me stuff, you have no website. Can't stress that enough. And that's your website. But then you have the outside of it. So you've got your analytics, which I hook up, you know, all those sorts of things, the tools that you can use to go, right, who's coming to my website? Where are they coming from and what are they doing? SEO is part of that. Face-to-face contact is part of that. You know, social media is part of that. So that's something that sits outside web development, because the web, if you think about a website being like a house, like the bricks and mortar sort of part of it, you know, we're talking about people who are the builder, the architect, the interior designer, the engineer. So your website is built by those people. Then how people get to your house, your bricks and mortar store when you're finished, so the road they use, the signs they see to direct them there, that's a whole separate business usually. So big agencies might package that up, but yeah, it's a separate thing.
Yeah, okay. And if any of you, you know, just had this big alarm bell go off when Sarah started to talk about professional photography and the fact that you don't like being in front of the camera, believe me, it's called Photoshop. It's okay. No matter what you look like, a good photographer, like, you know, my good photographer, Karen Merry of Merry Images, shout out to Karen. She had the job in Photoshop to make me look good for a website. So, you know, don't panic. There is a tool called Photoshop that will make everything better. Oh,
Yeah.
good. Oh,
Yeah.
good. Sarah, one of the questions that I had that, you know, I actually hear quite often myself, you know, through dealing with social media and marketing, and it's kind of one of those things that I think has done a bit of an evolution, and that is social media feeds on websites, yes or no?
It really depends. So someone like me who's really bad at social media,
we have to work on that,
I'm
young
going to
lady.
say no. Well, part of it is the brand and the website don't belong to me, and I can't show people what I'm working on until it's done. And a website is a really big thing, so it might take me 2 months, 3 months to cook this enormous website baby, and then I go, yeah, it's done. And one post I can get out of that, really. Like, we need to talk. But
one post.
One post.
Rubbish. Goodness me. Here's a lecture coming in the podcast interview.
Yeah.
Moving right along from that.
So I don't have my Instagram on my website. But for someone like you who is diligent and really, really good at it, yes, absolutely, let's have your Instagram feed on there. But I have developer tricks to make sure that it runs really well, because Instagram's what we call dynamic content. It's not a picture on your website. It's a feed saying, hey, Instagram, what have you got for me? Oh, hey, I've got 8 images. I'm just going to spit them out here. So there's communication that is happening in the background there. So that potentially can slow down a website depending on how the code is built. So I try and optimize that delivery so that it doesn't slow people down. And I often put the feed at the bottom of the website so it's had a chance to load before people get there.
Yeah, okay.
Because that can take a little while.
Yeah.
So there's tips and tricks to doing it. And the images that come in aren't optimized for website delivery all the time either, depending on the size, so many different factors. So it can slow you down even when the code's delivered because the images are large. So lots of different ways to do it. lots of
Does
different
it
tips and
help with
tricks.
being found? Is there a reason that other than to fill a space or to connect, have I guess a different call to action, which is why I've put it on my website, is all about that next connection type of thing. But does it help with being found in Google or telling the Google spiders that it's being updated more often?
Not really, because it's simply dynamic content on a page. It doesn't update the page itself. So
Yeah.
it's like having a little window into Instagram,
Okay.
rather than saying I'm changing the copy on the page and now I'm saving it. So it's like having a Word document. There's a dynamic field in there, which is the date, and the date will change depending on when you open it. But it hasn't changed the content of the document itself.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
So
and it
if you
doesn't
are
have,
thinking about doing it, you need to have a specific goal in mind for it rather than
which is
thinking
making the
this is going
connection.
to be good for SEO.
Yeah, because I wouldn't say it's good for SEO. I'm happy to be told otherwise, but my opinion is it helps that connection. It can help people see that you're active, that you're out there, you're putting out new content. It might be a really interesting image for them, and so they click on it and follow you. So that is the reason that you'd have your Instagram or Facebook feed on there, but it doesn't have the tags in it that Google will be reading to go, oh, this is an image about Jen's Facebook ads course or something like that. It just has a tag that says, CDN, Instagram, some enormous long number, .jpeg or whatever. So it doesn't have anything instructive for Google to actually read about the content.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I did actually open it up to my group and onto my social feeds that we were having this little interview today, because I wanted to know if there was any questions out there. And I actually had Jules Priya from Airtree Resort and also Catherine from Mint Accommodation, and they were both anxious to sort of have a question answered around SEO and the fact that perhaps in the past they've thought that when they've got a website built that is actually part of the package of the website, which I know when we were offline before and we were talking about it, even you've found that to be like a misconception, I guess, when people are talking about getting their websites done.
Yeah. And every agency will do it differently, but so your developer, designer, those sorts of people who build your website and make it look pretty, they have one skill set, and that's coding and user experience and building a website. Search engine optimization is a different skill set. So you may have an amazing unicorn that does all the things and has that entire solution for you. And a good website will be built in a way that is nice and fast, small images, has keywords and has structured content. So that does have some innate good SEO.
Mm-hmm.
Have a plugin like Yoast or Rank Math or SEO Press if you're WordPress that helps you build that content well. But if you're talking about someone who is going to go, right, this keyword is the right one for you based on the research that I've done, we're going to optimize your website for this particular keyword. Totally different set of skills. It usually involves different programs that I don't have access, well, I could have access to if I pay for them, but it's not my core skill set. So things like SEMrush and those sorts of things will give ideas to people, but I'm not the sort of person who can give you that advice. I can say, look, I've given you a really good base to build on. I've put in Yoast or SEO Press, and we've chosen some keywords based on what we think might be a good idea. We'll track your Google Analytics, and then we'll hand you off to someone who really knows SEO and can say, oh, look, if you're going to run a Google AdWords campaign, the cost per click of that keyword is actually much more, but here's one that's going to cost you less, but it's trending. So let's change it to that one. That's a strategy that is something that's outside your website. It's part of your marketing plan. So yeah, it's definitely something that people need to ask about when they're getting their website built. Is it going to have any SEO capabilities built in? What is the SEO potential for my website? So something like Wix, for example, really not good SEO potential because it doesn't allow you to have the tools that you need to put in that structured data that Google loves. WordPress does. So if SEO is something on the horizon that you want to do, that will help you influence the choice of platform. It's a really complex ecosystem. It really, really is.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I guess, it all comes down to, those three words that drive me absolutely insane. For what purpose? What's the purpose of your website? If you have a website and the purpose of that is so that you have somewhere to send people for more information, that's very different to your purpose being found, that you actually want to come up in searches. So for Wix and things like that, if you just want somewhere to be able to send people, then that might work perfectly, because you don't want to necessarily come up in searches. It's really just another place to send potential prospects or clients for more information, as opposed to needing SEO to actually be found in Google searches and things like that.
Exactly. And SEO is part of that quiver of tools that you have. So, you've got your human connection, H2H. I'm talking to you. Hey, here's a business card. It's got my address on it. Okay, I'm going to go visit it. Or advertising in a magazine, or, completely offline, being in LinkedIn, sharing stuff on Pinterest. It's all part of getting traffic to your website. And SEO is part of that. And, they've changed the Google algorithm again. So, what was working a couple of weeks ago may not be working now, because they've changed the algorithm.
Oh, those rat bags. Seriously.
Yeah.
How rude.
But your SEO expert's going to know all about that. I know it's changed. I don't know what has happened that might impact my clients or what have you, because that's not my job. My job is to make sure it's fast and it's pretty, and that people can find what they need to, and the information is structured really clearly. And
that's your a zone of genius. So someone like Kate Toon, who's like the Beyonce of SEO, that's her jam. That's her thing that she's really good at, her zone of genius. So I guess for anyone who's listening to this podcast and wants to know a little bit more about SEO, episode 39 of this podcast I did with Kate Toon, and she gave some really great tips and tricks around how to look at SEO within your website, and little ways that you can actually help with your ranking and that sort of thing. But I guess from what Julie and from what Catherine were trying to say, it all comes down to having a web designer or a web developer that you can ask questions to and start those conversations and really find out what is actually included in the package if I sign on the dotted line and what isn't.
Yeah, exactly. And I see that really is a big part of my role is education, because people don't know. And it's not your job to know. You don't build websites. It's my job to explain what I do, and it's my job to explain what the outcomes are going to be and what I'm going to do for you. So, I try and be quite clear that it'll be set up to have good SEO tools, but then you need to go and choose your keywords and those sorts of things, and we get that all set up. But if you want to run campaigns, if you want to go, this is trending, that's not trending, which one's going to cost me more if I run ads, totally different kettle of fish. So yeah,
do what you do best and outsource the rest.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So before we finish up, I guess, because this has been such a great conversation and there's been so much gold. You are just I know from personal experience how amazing this process has been dealing with you. But what other sort of tips and tricks do you have that we haven't sort of touched on today that you'd like to share?
Web development and design, it's really a two-way street. I think you've got to give and you've got to get. You've got to really give as much information as the people that you're working with need from you, and be really open to being challenged, because that's where you're going to get the best results. Think about your business, think about what you want to achieve, think about who you're talking to, and we'll build it for you. But if you're coming in with a closed mind, if you're coming in with I'm the expert and I'm not going to help you out, you'll get a bad result and you'll feel really icky about the situation. So it's something that you'll grow through. It's a process, and coming in and going, look, I need a website in 6 weeks, it's going to be exactly this. That's not my ideal client. There are probably people out there that will do that for you, but I like to really help people grow their business and feel confident and have something that we can keep working on together, because that's another thing that website owners need to have a think about is maintenance plans. Once you've made this beautiful investment, we need to keep it up to date. and you want to add new pages and blogs and all that sort of stuff, and I use Divi, always adding features. If you want to make the best of the new features that come out, your developer is going to be the one who's going to go, hey, have you seen what this can do now? Because they'll be really excited about it, like me. I got really excited a couple of weeks ago when Divi 4 came out. And I sent excited emails to a few of my regular clients. And it's like, I love how excited you get. You're the cutest nerd ever.
Yep.
But it's my job to go, guess what? You can do this now. This is really exciting. How does this light you up? What can we do? So you continue that collaboration. I think that's really important. So, yeah, I think the biggest advice is two-way street. Be open to learning and really, really share with your website developer, because they want to help you. They're in it to help you out.
Yeah. And being able to have, from my point of view, from a customer's point of view, being able to have a bit of a relationship with the person who is building your website. Because for me, you were building my baby. You were building my, I won't say dream. That's probably a little bit too big, but you were building a really big asset inside my business that I was going to use continually. I think of people, and this is probably going back a little bit with the photography. And I think, people sort of say, I don't really want to invest in professional photography. I think I probably paid close to $2,000 for professional photography for my website. But the amount of times I've used those photos is absolutely astronomical through my socials and through my website. It's been really, really amazing. But having that relationship that you can have with your website developer, like I know in episode 40, when I talked about my new website that launched, I sort of told people a little story about how our first draft together I didn't like. And I think it might have landed in my inbox on like a Friday, and I spent the whole weekend going, what am I going to do? I don't like it. And and half of me was like, don't worry about it, just let it go, and we'll fix it when we've got control of it. It'll be right. And the other half was like, no, we need to tell Sarah. So to have that relationship where I can say to you, Sarah, I'm really sorry, I don't like it, and this is why, and for you to scream into a pillow or whatever it do, and then go, sure, let's fix that then. That's worth gold. It is to have that relationship.
And you came to me and you said, I don't like it, and this is why. And that is the key takeaway. It's, you said this is why, and you broke down this is why, and we talked about why. And that is really important, because when people come back to me and go, don't like it. Why don't you like it? I just don't. That's when I cry.
And you know why I knew to say that to you? A, because, it's probably my personality, but B, you sent me a blog post that talked all about that, about, if you don't like something, tell them why. If you want something changed, explain it. You don't know me, you don't know my business, so don't assume that I know things. So it was like this blog post, it was so beautifully curated and written, but it seeded that thought. So when I went, I don't like it, it was kind of like, all right, I need to tell her why, otherwise we're going to be stuck in a jam. And, we're already a month behind because I was having trouble getting over something else. It was something to do with my logo design that I was married to. But that's a totally different conversation again. But yeah, it was sort of that. So you knew that these problems already came up. So you had the solution if people actually read what you sent them, I guess.
And that's my role as an educator, is to help people go through this process, because they haven't done it before, and this is my jam. This is what I do in and day out. So I need to educate them on how it all works and how working with me works. And feedback is just infinitely so important, because if we haven't got that ideal customer in our heads and we're not speaking to them, and the feedback is not about them, it's about personal preferences or something like that, it makes it really hard to navigate why. And then what the next step is, what am I going to do about it? Because if I can't find a solution which is based on the user experience of your ideal client, we start to get in a situation of, well, you come to me to find a solution for your business where we're butting heads though, because when we don't have the client in mind. And that's what you need to keep coming back to. And I love that blog post so much by Apex Creative about how to actually give feedback. Don't ask Aunt Clementine and Uncle Bruce because they aren't your ideal client.
Yes.
You know, don't think about what random people are going to tell you, you know, and sometimes it's about gut reactions and writing them down and why you had that gut reaction and those sorts of things and working through it. Because it is a process, I keep saying. It's a process. It's a big process. And it can be exhausting sometimes. It really can be.
Yeah, it was.
On both sides of the fence.
It was very exhausting sometimes, but I had the most amazing asset because we powered through and because, you know, we had such great open lines of communication.
Exactly.
I guess, you know, do you have any final wisdom, final thoughts before we wrap this little episode up for everyone?
Oh, gosh, I think we might have actually covered nearly all the things.
Yeah.
I think the key takeaways for people who are sitting there thinking, I'd really like to work with someone, whether it's me or another developer or someone, I think I'm ready to take that step to go and get a professional to do my website. I would say ask lots of questions, participate in the process, ask more questions, and then keep participating. Really, really big, those two things, you know, it's a cycle. Ask questions and participate. That will get you the best results.
Yeah, and from a customer's point of view, probably my biggest advice to give someone is realize that they are the expert, not you. So I'm not the website development expert. I'm not, you know, the design expert. So sometimes you just need to let it go and you need to sing the Frozen song and realize that this isn't your jam. So stick to what you know, because that was certainly a big lesson for me. Not that I'm a control freak at all, but, you know, it was a big lesson to sort of let the professional do the professional job.
And it's actually a hard thing for small business owners to do because they're used to doing everything by themselves. And you know, you've done your own website in the past, and you do your own marketing, and you do your own this, you do your own that, and now you've got someone that you're working with, and it's a new dynamic. So it is something that's new, and I get it.
Yeah. So for anyone who would like to learn more about Align Design or Sarah Crawford, what's the best way they can get to know you a little bit more, or, you know, get in contact with you?
Just my website's probably the easiest one. Aligned, as in A-lined, because I do line art a lot. That's where I started off. So not like alignment in your spine or something like that with a G. No G. A-L-I-N-E-D design.com.
Beautiful, Align. And I will, of course, have, you know, links in the show notes as well. So you can certainly look them up in the show notes if you're not quite sure. But thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on. This has been really great. And I think my audience are going to love some of the tips and tricks and just the conversation in general, learning a little bit more about website development and, you know, where they should start. So I can't thank you enough for giving up your time.
You're welcome.
For us today.
We'll do it again.
Yes. Sounds great. Sounds great. All right. Thanks so much, Sarah. Take care.
Okay, no worries. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did enjoy recording it. Like I said, Sarah's contact details are in the show notes. So if you want to head to socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/51, you will find Sarah's link to her website there. Episode 51, this episode here, is actually the last one for 2019 before Christmas. So I just really wanted to say, please have yourself a very Merry Christmas. And if Christmas isn't your thing, then still enjoy time with your family and your friends. Always be safe and take care of your loved ones at this time of the year as well. I hope you find some time to relax and rejuvenate before 2020 hits. Big love to my gorgeous podcast family. You have made my year sensational. Of course, I will be back next Thursday, which will actually be Boxing Day, with some more marketing know-how and another great discovery. If you're enjoying this podcast, please don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you would like to leave me a rating or a review, then that would be an amazing Christmas present to me today. Those things are like gold for podcasters like me, and frankly, I just really love reading them. But of course, that is all for episode 51. I'd love to connect with you on social, so let's get social on social. I'm on all the platforms and I would love to meet you over there as well. And of course, remember my small business peeps, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
Tell it like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are.